Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to my channel, Jersey Shore Pondscapes videos. My name is Chris, and today we are doing a video on 3 different types of filtration, basically mechanical, biological, and chemical. And the whole purpose of this video is to help explain to you what the differences are in these filters, how they work, and maybe some of the different medias that are used in them. What I'm hoping to accomplish is to give you a little knowledge as to how a particular filter works depending on the types of media that are inside of it. So if you go to a pond store, an aquarium shop, or wherever, and you're looking to purchase a filter, and you can take a look at that filter and see the different types of media that are in it, understand how that media works, and hopefully determine whether or not that filter is appropriate for what you may need. Okay? So let's start off first with mechanical filtration. Mechanical filtration is basically any type of filter that can remove particles and debris out of the water. Okay? Fish waste, fish food, mud, silt, leaves, plant matter, debris, whatever solid material is in your water, mechanical filters are going to remove that. Okay, so to me, mechanical filters are extremely important, and I really emphasize this in my filter systems because this is what keeps your pond clean. Okay, we need something to remove the solid waste, the solid material in your pond, in your water. Okay, for me, the most common media used is filter pads. Okay, so a filter pad similar to this one right here. Okay, this stuff comes on big rolls and sheets, all different sizes and shapes. I cut it to whatever we need. This pad I've used for years and years and years, and I love this pad. This pad is awesome. It's about 1 inch thick, right? It's a fairly dense pad. I mean, if I put it up to the light, I can see light through it, but it really holds a lot of sediment. Now, the key is that its thickness is about 1 inch, and to me, I think that's a sweet spot for these pads, because anything thinner, okay, is not going to hold a lot of material. And I've seen really thin pads that actually look like a towel laying in the filters, and they're just flimsy. They fall apart. They don't hold a lot of stuff. And then I've seen pads that are much thicker, maybe 2.5 inches thick. Now, the thick pads hold a lot of material. They work, absolutely. But just keep in mind that when you need to remove those pads from a filter, they're going to be really heavy, right? If they're really solid, full of muck and sludge and all that stuff, they're really heavy to remove. And as those pads get older, they get a little weaker, right? The material gets a little weaker, and sometimes you can pick them up and they'll rip and tear because they're just too heavy, all right? So a pad around 1 inch thick is really nice. So for me, you might have checked out, or if you haven't, please do. I have other videos online here about gravity-fed filter systems, and in those gravity-fed filter systems, I use these pads all the time. And what I'll do is I'll use a layer of white pad, and then I'll use a layer of this black plastic woven material on top of it. Now this pad, this is actually called Anchor Mat. And this Anchor Mat is basically something I found that's commonly used in soil erosion control. All right, it's about 3/4 of an inch thick, and I use it as like spacers in between my pads. So I'll put a layer of white pad down, a layer of Anchor Mat, and then another white pad on top of it, and so on and so forth as I need. Yeah, really neat combination. It works really well. Like I said, like a spacer in between the pads. Now, another really common type of pad that's out there is a pad called Metalla. Metalla comes in a sheet. It's fairly dense, okay? It's all different, like woven plastic, and it's pretty rigid, all right? It comes in a solid sheet, whereas this pad, right, is pretty flexible and flimsy. Metallo is a solid sheet, fairly rigid. They come in different colors. The different colors represent different densities in the pad. What's nice with the Metallo as well is that it's really easy to clean. When you hold it up and you take a hose and you wash it out, a lot of the debris just comes right through the pad. Okay, so that's a really nice pad too. I just find I love these. I just love this, type of pad better. It holds a lot of garbage. It really keeps my ponds clean, and this is what I've always used, and I kind of stick with it. But Metallo is a good product as well. All right, so check that out. Again, different layers of density as it goes up, okay? As you build them up in your filters, you can use different densities, starting from the most porous on the bottom, right, to the most dense on the top as your water flows through it. Okay, so there's several different types of different sponges and stuff like this that can all be used. Kind of think about the material that is included in the filter that you're buying, and how efficient is it going to be? How easy is it going to be to clean, right? Definitely, keep all that in mind. But that's basically what mechanical filtration is. Now let's go on to biological filtration. So, many people are going to say, biological filtration is the most important type of filter. You got to have a biological filtration on your pond, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so what is biological filtration? So a biofilter, in short, is basically any type of filter that contains media that provides a lot of surface area for bacteria to grow on it. Okay, now this bacteria does a whole chemical process in the pond that keeps your pond balanced and, as they say, cycled. All right. Please check out my other video. I have another video on what's called the nitrogen cycle, and that explains this whole chemical process that occurs in a biological filtration. Please check out that video. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail with it right here. I just basically want you to know here today what a biological filter is and how it works. All right. So again, it's a filter that provides media for bacteria to grow. All right. Now, the best types of biological filtration media are things that provide the most surface area, which will hold the most bacteria. Okay. So, bead filters have 50 million little beads in them. A lot of surface area, right? Great for biological filtration. I use a product called Biofill. And Biofill is basically like a nylon plastic ribbon material, okay? It comes in a cubic foot bag. So there's a lot of this stuff. What's really nice about this is there's a ton of surface area in it, and it's extremely lightweight, right? Extremely lightweight. I put it in this nylon mesh media bag, and it goes on the tops of my filters. So in my filters, the water comes in on the bottom. It goes through all those layers of mechanical filtration, and then on the top of those pads, I put these nylon mesh bags of the ribbon for some biological, okay, filtration. And what's really nice about this is it's so nice and lightweight. You can just take this stuff out of a filter, hose it down, shake it around, hose it down, right, and throw it right back in. Really nice and easy. Years ago, the most common type of media used for this was lava rocks. Now, lava rocks are a very porous rock that is lighter weight than normal gravel. Okay, so it is a little lighter, right? But it has all these little nooks and crannies and is very porous. It provides a lot of surface area for your bacteria to grow, okay? The problem is it's still pretty heavy. So if you take a bag like this and you fill this up with lava rock, and it's still going to weigh 30, 40 pounds. It's still pretty heavy, and it's not that easy to pull out of a filter and drag it across your yard to your hose and wash. I mean, this is a piece of cake, all right? So definitely, we've kind of evolved more into this stuff, media like this, more readily than using lava rocks and stuff anymore. But I still see filters with lava rocks in it pretty often, because it was kind of a standard years ago, but we've moved on. So, okay, so that's basically biological filtration. Now let me just briefly get into this really quickly. As I said, for me, mechanical filtration is something that I really emphasize in my filters, and not so much the biological filtration, all right? So if biological filtration is so important and everybody's telling you you've got to have a biofilter on your pond, all right, I will not argue with that, all right? Absolutely, biofiltration is important. But in my experience, this is just me, in my experience, over 25 plus years of building koi ponds, I think that most of the biologics that occur in your pond occur in your pond, okay? Because here's the key. If I have a biofilter and there's a bunch of foam pads in it, or whatever kind of pads, or beads in the bead filter, okay, where all this bacteria is growing, yeah, man, there's a ton of surface area on this, inside this pad, all throughout the woven material for bacteria to grow, absolutely. But once this gets covered with sludge and muck and garbage and gunk, okay, that bacteria is not going to be growing very well. Bacteria needs an aerobic environment, an oxygen-rich environment to thrive. It's not going to thrive covered in sludge. Okay. Now, the other little misconception I believe is that cleaning these filter pads, a lot of people say, oh, when you wash those filter pads, you're washing away all your bacteria. Especially if you're using city water that has chlorine in it, right? You're going to kill all that bacteria with the chlorine when you wash your water. All right? Let me tell you, my filters are based around these pads. And I go to the house once a month at least, and I wash all these pads down thoroughly, okay? I put them all back in. My ammonia levels, my balance in my pond never changes, okay? Yet I'm cleaning a whole filter and supposedly washing away all this bacteria, right? So I really believe that the majority of the biologics that are going to occur in your pond are going to occur in the pond and not so much in a filter that's collecting garbage, okay? Now, on your liner, on your rocks, on your gravel, if you have, it's all going to provide surface area for bacteria to grow, all right? Now, there's a couple, I mean, there's different circumstances where, you know, certain biological filters are required, okay? If you have a pond with a really heavy fish load, okay? If I'm building a pond and I know there's going to be a ton of fish, big fish in this pond, and I need extra biofiltration, then what I do is I put on a nice big bead filter after my gravity-fed filter systems. So after all that water's filtered, after all that water gets cleaned through my pads, then the pump will send it through a bead filter, and that bead filter hardly ever gets dirty because all the dirty water's in here. And the pump is pumping clean water now through that biofilter, through that bead filter. And those beads provide a great surface area for all your biological filtration. So mechanical filtration takes part in my gravity-fed systems, and the biologics, extra biologics, takes place in the bead filter for me. okay? I just want to kind of get you that concept. Now, there are different types of medias, okay, used for biofilters. But I guess the point that I'm trying to emphasize to you is the fact that if you're buying a biofilter and it's a bunch of layers of pads inside of it, just realize that you're not going to get a lot of biological filtration out of that if it's covered in muck and sludge. And that's the job that the pads are supposed to do, okay? So whatever kind of media you may have in filters, there's 20 million different types of media out there, okay? Bioballs, okay? Bioballs are these round spheres that are all crazy shapes and have all kinds of nooks and crannies and holes and crazy stuff in them. Again, it's providing surface area for bacteria, okay? All different stuff. I've seen these round cylinders. They almost look like clay, white clay cylinders almost. Again, very porous, lighter weight, and the water can trickle down over them, right? And as long as that bacteria is growing on it, it's biological, right? So you want the bacteria, you don't want the sludge. So keep that in mind as to how effective a filter's gonna be. Some canister filters may have bioballs on, on the bottom and then filter pads through the top. Again, think about the process, okay? Where's all this silt and sediment going to settle? On the bottom, right? So if it all settles on the bottom and there's bioballs down there, it's not going to be very effective as biological, right? If the water comes in the bottom, goes through the filter pads, and then hits the bioballs, it's probably going to be a little more effective, okay? So just kind of understand those little processes, all right? Okay. Check out that video on the nitrogen cycle, okay? Because we'll really get into a little more detail on how the whole pond balances itself and cycles itself by using that bacteria that's growing in your filter. All right, finally, the last one, real quick, chemical filtration. Not so common anymore with ponds, but it's very common, it has been commonly used for like aquariums and stuff. So I want to include it in this video. Chemical filtrations are something that, a media that absorbs chemicals, compounds out of the water, toxic compounds out of the water, all right? Most common, carbon, all right? Charcoal filters, right? Maybe you've heard of that. Carbon, used in aquariums. I have read some things anymore where there's been some studies where they think some of the carbon might actually cause some hole in the head disease and stuff like this in some fish, whatever. But carbon absorbs organic impurities and toxic chemicals out of the water, all right? The problem is once that carbon is fully saturated with these toxins, all right, it can start releasing them again, all right, because it's only going to hold so much. So the carbon needs to be changed, and kept up so that it can continuously keep absorbing the impurities out of water. Now, years ago, and I haven't seen this recently, but years ago there was a product called Amorox, which was common for ponds, and it was a white rock. It was actually like I don't know if it's a mineral or whatever it was, called zeolite. All right. Now, zeolite absorbs ammonia. All right, thus it's called Amorox, right? So they were these sold in bags. They were white rocks that, was basically said, you put them on the bottom of your pond and they absorb all the ammonia. Great concept, right? But here's the flaw, all right? When those rocks get fully saturated with ammonia, how do you get them out? All right, you got to remove all that from your pond. So maybe put them in a mesh media bag like this, right? Put them in a filter system when they absorb all that ammonia, and you know, your pond, you do your pH test and your ammonia tests and all in your pond, and you start to see that your ammonia levels are going up again. Well, maybe now you know that those rocks are saturated with ammonia and we need to remove them. Now there was a way to kind of recharge them with salt, using a saltwater solution, that the salt would cause the rocks to kind of release a lot of the free ammonia in there and kind of recharge it, or you know, you'd buy more and put more in there. I was never a big fan of this product. One, I don't like putting rocks in the bottom of the pond, period. Again, I have a ton of videos on all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, advantages and disadvantages. Yes, it removes ammonia, right? But once it gets saturated, we need to remove it. All right, we need to remove the rock, the media itself. So good concept, all right, but I just want to explain to you something, you know, what chemical filtration is, like carbon, and how it works, okay? There are some filters, I have seen some filters that are sold by aquarium companies that actually do have carbon in it for a pond, all right? So if you get something like this and you see that, okay, that's how that works, all right? Okay. So we've looked at mechanical, biological, and chemical filtration, all right? The three main types of filters. So whenever you're buying whatever kind of filter you have or are you looking to purchase, hopefully now you'll understand what the media is inside there and how it's going to work, and some tips and tricks on how to keep it functioning properly, right? By cleaning the pads, making sure that the biological filtration doesn't get dirty, right? Backwash those bead filters, make sure that sludge doesn't build up inside that filter, okay? You know, again, the little trick is a lot of filters will do both mechanical and biological, okay? But it's just how effective are they going to be in both instances, okay? Keep all this stuff in mind when you're looking at these filters so you understand how they work, and that'll help you understand how to maintain them that much better, all right? So I hope you kind of got it. I'm sorry if I got a little long-winded, but you know, I just want to give you an idea. There are filters for saltwater fish tanks that are called trickle filters, where it's basically like a box of bio balls, right? Where maybe some pads on the top, where the water gets pumped into the top, goes through the pads, and then it all trickles down through the bio balls, okay? Well, now you know the filter pads on the top are mechanical, right? Removing large sediment and debris out of the water. All those bio balls and whatever media underneath, where all that water, clean water, is trickling over, it's your biological, right? And if there is a, you know, carbon filter or something in there, now you can see how that all works in succession with each other. Really quickly, another type of filter that are used in fish tanks, especially saltwater fish tanks. I want to mention this really quick because a similar process does occur in a pond. It's called protein skimming, okay? A protein skimmer for a saltwater fish tank is basically a tall unit with a cup on the top where all this frothy foam builds up. So basically what we're doing is we're taking this cylinder, we're pumping water in through it, and we're pumping oxygen, air up through that column of water. On the top of that cylinder, all the organic impurities in the water stick to the oxygen molecules, and it forms this foam, frothy foam on the top, okay, in this cup, which we can remove and wash and put back in. Now, I'm mentioning this because a real common thing, especially in the spring, if we shut the ponds down in the winter, come spring when we turn on the ponds again, we get all these waterfalls going and everything going, you might notice a lot of foam and bubbles and stuff on top of the pond. And that's basically the same process of protein skimming, okay? You have all kinds of organic impurities that have built up in the pond over the winter. And when we turn on our waterfalls and our streams or fountains or whatever it is, that oxygen that's being put into the water, the oxygen molecules are collecting all the organic impurities, and those organics are all floating to the top, so you get some foam and bubbles on top of the pond. So the best way to reduce a lot of those organic impurities is with mechanical filtration, right? And of course, water changes, right? Let's take 25% or a third of the water out of the pond and refresh it with fresh water and dilute those impurities in the water. Okay, so all right, that's it. I'm going to end it right here, but I hope it helped you out. Please hit the like button if if it helped you out a little bit, and subscribe to my channel. We're talking all about koi ponds and water gardens and everything under the sun when it comes to this, and please help me to help you, teach you as much as I can about all your ponds and water gardens. And please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button and check out those other videos. And thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care. Bye.